welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, this former Black officer or Black American officer who had over 30 plus years of experience, and he still got his Negroo remindment, in which he was looking for a certain condo in a supposedly good area. Looking at this particular image, as you see on those words, I can't believe this is still happening in 2025 to me. I thought it was in the past. The anti-Black American hatred. But I got my Negroo remindment. Yes. See, they thought because they were in enforcement and had that uniform on for 30 some plus years that he seemed to forgot it ain't nothing changed. Sometimes it's more overt, sometimes it's more direct, sometimes more sneakier, sometimes it's half sneakier, but nothing has changed of the anti-American Blackism that's going on in various parts of society within various parts of America. Nothing has still changed. And you still got some naive type and some gullible type American Blacks who want supplies who keep thinking things have changed.
I couldn't help but note your pain. My pain, it runs deep. Share it with me.
Yes. See, sometimes Black pain is a hardcore thing that numbers of American Blacks still have a problem with accepting.
I couldn't help but note your pain. My pain, it runs deep. Share it with me.
Yes. And he had to get his Negro remindment card on that situation. He seemed to forgot that things have not truly changed. Watch this.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't Black, it don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't Black, it don't have.
See, some things have not changed on that part. So let me go ahead and share my screen on this part. It's not going to be a long show whatsoever. But these kind of shows are very essential, what I call timepiece purpose, because sometimes people forget within American Blackism, the one it applies to, that things have not still truly changed as much on that. Today is August the 27th, 2025. So let me make sure that it's unmuted. It's a very important thing to show these kind of things. All right.
Some stories are difficult to tell, especially when they touch on alleged intimidation and racial profiling. Well, the world remembers the tragedy of Trayvon Martin, a young boy shot and killed while walking through a neighborhood carrying nothing more than a bag of Skittles.
And by the way, what came after that? Still no anti-American Black hate crime law. None. But before Trumpism, within the first year of the previous administration, there was an anti-Asian law passed real fast. Just saying on that.
Tonight, 7 News Detroit anchor Carolyn Clifford is digging into a dispute between a retired police detective from Detroit and a Livonia resident after an encounter inside a condo complex left both men pointing fingers.
Marcellus Ball spent 35 years with the Detroit Police Department, retiring at. Marcellus Ball spent 35 years with the Detroit Police Department, retiring as a detective, honored at the White House. But earlier this year, while searching for a condo in Livonia, he says he faced something he never expected.
Get out of my face.
This is a private
I
street
know
here.
what it is.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
If you knew, you wouldn't be here.
I'm in law.
Faced something he never expected.
Get out of my face.
This is a private
I
street
know
here.
what it is.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
If you knew, you wouldn't be here.
I'm in law enforcement, so I know what I'm
law
doing.
enforcement.
Yes.
Yes. Badge.
Ball says 51-year-old Edward Dombrowski confronted him, questioned.
And that name is a Polish name, by the way. That is an Anglo adjacent type of white person, by the way, because there are some ethnic Anglo ones that slide in and out the generic white banner. That's a whole different game in itself.
Why he was there.
Basically,
51-year-old Edward Dombrowski confronted him, questioning why he was there.
basically was racial profiling me. And they was telling me, what was I doing over here? You don't live here. We don't want you here.
Get out of here.
No.
Get your car out of here.
Feeling uneasy, Ball began recording. He says Dombrowski had a knife in his pocket,
Right through here where I could see it.
something confirmed on a 911 call. By the time police arrived, Dombrowski had walked away and Ball was told to leave. Later, police asked Ball if he wanted to press charges, but without a name, he posted the video online. It quickly drew hundreds of responses.
Get out. You can't
No.
case our neighborhood then.
Goodbye.
It's not for sale.
Goodbye.
Not for sale.
Goodbye.
When online, it quickly drew hundreds of responses.
Get out. You can't
No.
case our neighborhood then.
Goodbye.
It's not for sale.
Goodbye.
Not for sale.
Goodbye.
When we met Ball back at the complex for an interview, Dombrowski walked right up. When we asked Dombrowski why he confronted Ball, his answer pointed to suspicion.
Why would you feel so hostile towards someone like Marcellus Ball pulling up into your condo complex?
Well, Marcellus didn't have a very cogent story to offer me.
To offer this little demonic little dog shit of a person, of an Anglo adjacent, that this particular former black American officer, 30-some plus years, that got his Negroo remindment that this particular demonic being hero, that he was owed an explanation why this Black American is looking to purchase a condo, right? He doesn't fit some little, black on black, oh my goodness, look at the black on black people, criminality type look people. No, he doesn't fit that, right? He's mind his business and everything like that, but that's not good enough. The only thing he saw was Negro skin, right? And the nerve of this little demonic little inhuman that thought that this Black American officer owed this little piece of minion shit an explanation why he's sitting there driving and looking at neighborhoods to purchase a condo in his neighborhood. The nerve and entitlement of some of these Anglo adjacent ones.
About his presence here with his Volvo.
Dombrowski admits.
Oh, wait, hold on now. What did he say he drove? Wait a minute.
Presence here with his Volvo.
Dombrowski admits.
Have a very cogent story to offer me about his presence here with his Volvo.
What in his Volvo? That's not a cheap little Volvo we had. Now look at this Black American officer, former officer, got his new remindment, 30-some plus years on the enforcement department, and already this little Anglo adjacent is already jealous of that, right? Because it doesn't fit the nonsensical generic profile of thinking that a Black American male is supposed to look all downtrodden and beat up and criminality, all that little nonsense, right? So when that doesn't fit the narrative, it makes a lot of Anglo adjacent and ones primarily within the regular Anglo American scenario, makes them feel very uneasy on that part, right? That ain't changed.
Dombrowski admits he always carries a knife, but denies showing it to Ball. Still, he acknowledges confronting others before, including an African-American food delivery driver.
So you see there is some type of obviously something internal with him of his anti-American Black hatred. And the nerve of his last name is a Polish name, right? So how many numbers of his people fled from Poland to get away from people that look like them, right? Just like some Black adjacent ones that fled their place and have the nerve to try to look down upon American Black, but fled their place of people that look like them. And I'm not talking about doing stuff humbleness. There are a few humbleness, but there's quite a number of ones that's unhumble because they're jealous of American blacks that are doing constructive things. So they want people to focus on some few amount of black Americans, that do some not so good things. So you see how this game goes on this situation.
Well, as a matter of fact, yeah, one of the delivery people came through. His name was Ezekiel.
Ezekiel?
Yeah, of African American descent.
And that right there, that word is an ancient, archaic word. African American, that's played off now. It's like somebody from China goes over to various parts of Africa, which is a whole different thing. A whole different thing on that situation. On that, they produce a baby, and he marries or gets with some woman who was in certain parts of Africa. He has a baby with her. Is that baby now what, Chinese? No. And they come over to America. That person is still African American with a little giggle on the side, right? See the India from India. Somebody comes over from India. Quite a number of people from India over in Africa. They produce a baby. Is that baby going to be considered as Indian from India appear in the story? No, that baby can, people play little games, but then they come over to America, right? Now that person, that baby is African American, right? So this is why I believe also delineation of specifically Black Americans. That African American stuff needs to go to the trash can and specifically be about saying Black Americans. Just like other cultures, they might be white, but they'll tell you, no, we're Irish American. No, we are German American. No, we're English American, right? No, we are Polish American. And they can slide in and say, no, we're under white banner. See how that game goes, right? So Black Americans need to start saying Black Americans more, not African Americans, not community of color, that nonsensical word, not minorities. Those are nonsensical generic terminologies that dilute Pacific Black Americans.
And you confronted him?
Yeah, I did. It was at 2 a.m.
And you have an association, right?
Mm-hmm.
The association, are they okay with you confronting people?
They're absolutely blindsided by Marcellus.
We reached out to the Villas Condo Association. By email, they told us Dombrowski has no authority to confront anyone. The Wayne County prosecutor charged him with disorderly person and disturbing the peace.
But no hate crime. See how that goes, right? And the irony of you see this Anglo adjacent and Harvard, this might not be Black American, might be a Black adjacent one, but either way, the skin of Black, the irony, right, of this right here, that his attorney, which is probably court opponent, is this Black skin one. The irony. And you can smell this Negro attorney. Whoa!
We were there for his first court appearance.
That is a misdemeanor punishable by anything from probation and fines and costs to a maximum of 93 days incarceration, or 90 days incarceration, I apologize, and or a $500 fine.
His court-appointed attorney said he was suffering from a mental illness.
You see how that goes, right? See, that don't come across as Black American. That comes across a little bit more Black adjacent one. And you see the excuse again, right? See again, oh my goodness, this little Anglo-American, Black Anglo adjacent one. And he suffers from mental health issues. When no more Black Americans are going to stop allowing people? It's all a few Black Americans who know that game. There needs to be a gigantic amount of more. Say, wait a minute, stop. We're not going to keep letting people use that generic terminology, because if this was vice versa, and you got people act as if there's no Black American communities of well-off Black Americans, and they certainly are. Now, what if that Anglo generic American, or this particular Anglo adjacent one, and he was looking around for Condo, and some Black man came out there, hey, what are you doing? We don't need you here. Oh my! And then all of a sudden he said, oh, that's racist. And then somebody said he get a court-appointed attorney and say this Black American. And he says, he suffers from mental health. They not listening to that. You see the game of this.
Was off his medication and undergoing anger management.
See how that goes? But Black on Black crime, Black on Black crime. Oh my, Black people don't know how to act. But when the numbers of Anglos within Panamanian culture, when it's applies to, or Anglo adjacent act like a fool, then it's like it's minimized. the games on that.
That's when Livonia's 16-court district judge Paul Bernier fired back.
If this is true, anger didn't provoke you to go up to that man and say the things you did and try to keep him out of your neighborhood. That wasn't anger, that was racism.
Bam!
The things you did and try to keep him out of your neighborhood. That wasn't anger, that was racism. The things you did and try to keep him out of your neighborhood. That wasn't anger, that was racism.
Ooh, what is the excuses then for certain ones, which is not going to be small, within personnel within the Paname's culture who have this little demonic nerve of they are the masters of deflection and denial, because it's ingrained in quite a number of those particular personnel, and even some black adjacent fleers, some tellers got the nerve because they want to be like certain people within the Paname's culture, how they look at them as gods. When you got people saying, oh, the black Americans are always talking about racism, as if racism of anti-American black hatred has ever stopped in centuries in America, right? What's the excuses when this particular Anglo judge saying, hey, no, they ain't got nothing to do with anger. That guy saying do it racist. Now, again, that's generically, I would say racial racism. I'll specifically say anti-American black racism, right? Then what's the excuse? Oh, they get quiet then, right? Because they ain't changed. All this, right? That kind of stuff, when you have an Anglo judge who knows the truth and they're not scared of saying the truth, all that messes up quite a number of people within Paname's culture once applies to. That messes up the black adjacent tethers and the fleers, right? That run for people that look like them, right? Because they can't take care of stuff in their own countries overall way. And then when you hear this Anglo judge saying, no, that's not anger issues, that's racism, they get quiet. Woo. What's the excuse now on that?
For Ball, justice is simple.
Has justice been served yet?
It's on the way. Justice is a process, and this is just part of the process. The judge set a court date, and we'll see what happens after then.
Out of here.
Feeling
Now, unfortunately, this particular black officer does have an aura of some gullibility that maybe they were so used to being on the force for 30 some plus years and having that uniform and a boom boom piece of equipment. Maybe they felt that they don't have too much to worry about on that. And so now he's out of his uniform and he got surprised. Even he said earlier in the video I showed you, he was still kind of shocked that this happened. You're like, man, what kind of naive nonsense is that? Right? On this part. Give me a second here. I want to show something here. This thing is funny how you try to play certain things and the algorithm throws things off. So let me go. Give me a second. I'm going to show you something on this because maybe he forgot that things have not changed. Give me one moment. Because these kind of videos that it's so very important to. Let's see if it's going to play. Nope, that's not going to play. So I got to remove that. Give me a second here. Let me get that out of the way. Got to go back and re-add this again. It's interesting. We have to kind of do this on that when you play certain type of videos. Strong. Okay, let me make sure. Where to go? Here we go.
Who walked out of the Democratic convention formed their own party.
The Southern revolt against President Truman reaches its climax at Birmingham under the states' rights banner.
The so-called Dixiecrats nominated the South Carolina governor Strom Thurmond as their presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negroos. Segregation and admit the Negroos. The Southern people. To force the Southern people.
Presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negroos into our theaters, into our swimming pools, into our homes, and into our churches.
So this particular black enforcement person, did they sit there and seem to forget that ain't changed? Strom Thurmond was a known super segregationists.
Who walked out of the Democratic
Give me a second.
formed their own party.
The Southern revolt against President Truman reached
President Truman, who supposedly came up with the desegregation of the service in 1947, which had nothing to do with still doing anything, because still the service was still segregated, still in the Korean War from 1951, 1953, 55. There still was black segregated units. So that means there was still hatred going on in various parts of America. And then a few years later, Vietnam, there still was certain parts of segregated informal military units of black people in Vietnam, right? So this particular black enforcement personnel who had been in law enforcement for 30 some plus years, I guess he seemed to forgot that he thought things have changed. And so in 1940s, either he was not born or he was a baby when I'm showing you again that Thurman, who became governor of South Carolina, the place that sit there and started the Civil War at Fort Sumter, South Carolina, right? Not because they came from certain parts of Africa, don't think so. Not because they were black adjacent, I don't think so, but because they were black Americans. And they didn't want people to have any kind of extension of slavery, or you had people in various parts of the South that wanted to keep the status quo of black Americans in some kind of bondage of enslavement, right? Not nobody else was going on that situation, right? But Strom Thurmond, who became the governor of South Carolina, was a known super segregationist, and that was still going on in the 1940s. It's 2025. So what is that? About 70 some plus years later. And this guy, this little Polish American Anglo adjacent guy, showed this black enforcement guy that it ain't nothing changed.
Who walked out of the Democratic convention formed their own party.
The Southern revolt against President Truman reaches its climax at Birmingham under the states' rights banner.
The so-called Dixiecrats nominated the South Carolina governor Strom Thurmond as their presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negroos into our theaters, into our swimming pools, into our homes, and into our churches.
But you have personnel that act like they don't see nothing within various parts of Paname's culture, and some black adjacent ones too. And unfortunately, there are some gullible personnel within certain parts of American blacks, the ones applies to, who keep acting as if they can just think positive and pray away racial racism, hatred. That's not the way that it goes on this. I make this point before I'm about to finish up, is that, and the guy in the super racial, racist, anti-American black segregationist who became governor of South Carolina, you heard him using the N-word. I cannot stand the usage of the N-word. It is a destructive word. And too many times within certain parts of American blackism, the one it applies to, the ones that do it will make excuses for, well, I don't see the problem. It's a big problem. So you have people around various parts of this planet, the ones it applies to, utilizing the N-word, and there are certain types of American blacks that still don't understand the problem with that. When you had slave owners using the N-word, overseers using the N-word, left and right, still less than 100 years ago, people are still using N-word to American blacks, and you still got in 2025, you still got certain numbers of American blacks, the ones it applies to, utilizing that destructive, atrocious wording. It's hard to get some respect, truly respect, when some personnel within American black are using one of the most hatred type words that has ever existed in America. And what I sit there and showed you in this particular, I'm gonna play this one last time, over 70 some plus years ago, when the super segregationist Strom Thurmond, as you just heard, I'm gonna play it one last time, was using that word back in the 1940s. There is no excuse for the N-word to still being used almost 70 some plus years later.
Who walked out of the Democratic convention formed their own party.
The Southern revolt against President Truman reaches its climax at Birmingham under the states' rights banner.
The so-called Dixiecrats nominated the South Carolina governor Strom Thurmond as their presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and
what is that some people don't quite get on this? I'm talking about the ones that applies to, right? That N word is a destructive word. I did several podcasts on the Real CP show about that, on that one under the live tab that has so many different videos I've done on that. That is a destructive word. I despise that word. It is not a term of endearment. It is a term of destruction on that. And you see from Strom Thurmond, a super segregationist who became the governor of South Carolina, which is almost like a headquarters of enslavement, along with the various other states, the eastern states, right? And the numbers of southern states.
Into our theaters. This climax at Birmingham under the states' rights banner.
The so-called Dixiecrats nominated the South Carolina governor Strom Thurmond as their presidential candidate.
There's not enough troops in the army to force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negroos into our theaters, into our swimming pools, into our homes, and into our churches.
I mean, you don't get no clearer than that. But at the same time, this particular black officer, he could not believe that this particular Anglo-adjacent Polish-American guy was sitting there trying to stop him from looking around for a condo in the parentheses good area. When are more American blacks going to sit there and truly wake up and say enough of this collectively? Because you still going to have some within certain American blacks that are just going to sink. And this is why I say that, unfortunately, if something majorly does not change within the mentality of Black Americans overall, not because some Trumpism, but overall, American blacks overall have half a generation to one generation left before the overall complete destruction of the American black culture overall. So I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP show.